What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. In the middle of the story, where you have not yet seen it to the end, it's really easy to write off everything when things are going against you. Everything seems like a waste, like nothing is clicking, nothing is working. Only hindsight provides us with some perspective that even what seemed to be wasted was actually the very ingredients in the recipe of making us into us. And as someone who is still very much stuck in the story, this is more of a reminder and maybe even a desperate need to believe this. But at the same time, I am constantly reminded by reality that what a big part of my worries were yesterday end up being the same things that give me peace today. It's almost as if the worry was useless because the things ended up working out just as they should. But more than just that, it's also that validation for having a legitimate reason to remind myself that what feels pointless today might not actually be pointless. It's not just about the worry that ends up being useless, but the things that you're worried about that seem to be leading nowhere, that have no outcome or no results to show for, just the doing of those things are in itself the result. It's as if you're looking past the things you're working on for them to lead somewhere to a result, but the work in itself is the result. Because it's not the final product that makes the product. It's the ingredients that make the product. The effort, the stirring, the kneading and mixing. Taken in isolation, they're just ingredients, tasks, activities, but added together, worked through thoroughly and regularly, they themselves are inseparable from the result that they lead to. They themselves are the result. Nothing that you add is separate from what becomes of it. And so nothing is wasted. All is additive. All is spice and flavor. Of course, it's very difficult to know this in the moment. We spend most of our lives navigating the locus of control. What is in control keeps us safe, we think. And what is out of our control is our risk factors, our potential surprises and pitfalls. And so we assume that what is out of control comes with harm, but it could just as well come as salvation. Maybe you're just asking for a rose, trying to control for a rose, but God has written for the whole garden to be yours. You can't know that in the moment. And that's where trust comes in. We only try to control what we fail to trust. And whether you realize it or not, trust and faith are prerequisites for sanity. Because what do you really control anyway? And if you try to control everything, you will go insane. Even the things you think you control are an illusion. Nothing exists solely to bend to our will and our control. And yet things end up serving us anyway. Maybe because there's something bigger at play that we don't have the courage to admit. Something outside of us. And while I'm not readily willing to let go of control like that in the moment, while I desperately cling to my illusions and blame myself for being out of control, for being unable to control, I'm glad to be provided with moments like this where I realize, even when I am not in control, even when everything seems to be fraying at the seams, that somehow still nothing is wasted and all is not lost. Life just has a way of repurposing setbacks, failures, and everything that we worry about into something of value. Sometimes it leads to growth. Sometimes just greater understanding. Other times, it's just a sense of gratitude from having gone through it. And while you are thinking everything is out of control, the universe takes what seems to be fraying at the seams and weaves the loose ends into a stronger fabric. So any worry that you may have is just borrowing of troubles from tomorrow. When instead, even if what feels like an actual problem today, what feels like the trouble of an anticipated tomorrow, will most likely turn out tomorrow to be a source of peace. And so what you worry about as being wasted is just nutrients for future growth. And if you're going to be cooking anyway, pair some hope with conviction that it all works out. And then you have the recipe for a miracle. Keep the faith, and the hope will become substance. And while your hands try to control everything, you leave no room for divine intervention. Literally, either you can hold it or he can hold it. Only one can lead. I love you, family. Stay true always. See you on the next show.